Welcome everyone to our weekly hangout for Agile Toolkit. Armin is not with us today. He will be joining us next week. So it's just me, Romans, and Bob is helping me out. And he will be also on the microphone and will ask me a question if I'm going too fast. Hi, Bob.
Yes, hello, Romans. Thank you for joining, I will try my best to do some questions. I'm participating as a very interesting developer. Since half a year, or maybe even a year, I selected Agile Toolkit for some development projects, and I'm following the Agile Toolkit project on the web and also on the Google Hangouts here. So
Okay. I see a lot of new faces today. So everyone who is new, you're warmly welcome. And so we record these hangouts on I record them on my computer and then I publish them later on YouTube. So if for some reason you need to leave, that the video will be available later. We have lots of things to do today, and specifically I wanted to target on a practical note, and more on a backend implementation and some of the real life tasks. And one of the first things I wanted to start is the reintroduction of our Lost and Found project. So this is how we got so far. I'm going to start with a login page. So I have a login page. And I don't remember my password, so possibly another thing we could do today is a password reminder. Fortunately, our passwords are not encrypted yet, so I can see what my email is, demo@mail.com, and the password demo. Okay, I'm in. My name here, user preferences, I can change things, and we even have a password confirmation. So let's see if this still works. And as I will be developing it, I'll also publish all the source code of this project in a GitHub, which you can find at github.com /Romanich, my name, and /Lost and Found. And again, I will be publishing the link in the notes again as well. Okay, so let me start by seeing if the password change works. I will change my password to 123. Click save. It says it is saved. I'm going to my database to see if my password is in fact changed to 123, and it is. Okay, so that works, but unfortunately, maybe if I forget to log out and someone else comes to my machine, he will be able to change my password, which is not good. Would be nice if we have a verification field for our old password, and this was going to be our first task for today. Okay, page user is where we have our form, and it lists all the fields. So probably the first thing I'd like to do is to separate this into two forms, and maybe also add some sort of UI. But let me start just by adding the second form. I will remove the password from here, like this. I don't think this field is used either, so I will remove that as well. And on my second form, as you can see, there is no problem having multiple forms in Agile Toolkit on the same page. They will work independently. And if my second form is committed, I will then be showing the message such as password changed. obviously I don't need this check anymore for my old form. Okay, so that was really simple. Need to change the label on my form here, and we have two forms now. Let's also Bob, what do you think? Should we put them side by side, or should we use tabs?
I think side by side.
Okay, so we're using columns. Columns is a really simple view which allows us to simply divide our screen into two columns, and for each column define how wide it is according to our grid system, such as this. And what this operation does, it returns me a new view, so I'll call it left column. And instead of adding a form to the page, which is referenced by variable this, I'm going to add it to the left column. As for this form, I will put it in the right column. The number 6 is can be in the range between 1 and 12, and again, as I mentioned, is defined by grid system, and grid system also could be configured to have as many grids as you want, but 12 is typically good for everyone. So this goes to right column. And let's see how this works. We have form on the left and form on the right. The forms are still flexible. They take roughly 50% of our screen space. So it's a flexible grid here, and forms are organized nicely. While we're doing this, I will add additional class to the form. I can add any class to the form using add class method. An Agile Toolkit form implements a class called stacked. If that's been added to the form, it's a regular CSS HTML class. If it's added, then labels appear on top of the field. And on this form, I'll do exactly the same thing. It doesn't really matter if I do it before fields or after fields. It affects how the form is displayed overall. Let's see if I can still change my password. I'll try ABC. Change password. Okay, it doesn't work because the confirmation field, I forgot to move confirmation field to the bottom. Oh no, I did not. I didn't move the original field. Okay, so we populate the original field by associating the form with the model of currently logged in user. Could have been any other model, but because we already have all this information, we simply associate with that model. And I also specify which fields I'd like to edit in this form. In this case, that's password. Okay, so I have password, confirm password, and the button to change it. And I think I just changed it to an empty password. Again, that's not nice. Yes, password shouldn't be changed to an empty one. So let's have a check, making sure the password is not null. Again, this could have been done in a model as well. Maybe we should do it in the model level. This is our user model. This is the password field. We could say type your password. Okay, we could do it this way, and see the error now comes up. As a red label. Another thing which I wanted to add is a strength checker. An Agile Toolkit appears to have a add-on for a strength checker over here. It's still an old style add-on from 4.1 Toolkit, and it doesn't use a namespace, but it's fine. We can still use it in our code. And as you see, it is like, let me show you, it's revealed in the sidebar. It is located in a lib folder of a MISC add-on. So ATK add-on / MISC, which I believe is included in our application by default. Let me just check that. Maybe not. The way how this again, each add-on is being used differently, but for this one you need to add this into your password field. So I will take my password field from the form, and I need to add strength checker inside of there. A small note to everyone: if you have any questions along the way, maybe I'm going too fast or I omit any detail, please type them in the group chat, and Bob will see that, and he will ask me your question. Okay, unable to include. That means, yes, I also can see here which folder it looks in, and it's our standard library folder, and ATK4 library, which is a standard set of classes from ATK4. It doesn't actually look for the strength checker. So I will show you how we could include additional path into a class called Pathfinder. I just need to double check how it's done. Okay, so first of all, where do we put this stuff? It could be in our application class, a front end. The front end is initialized on every request to every page. I don't really think in this particular case we need to put it here, because we only need this add-on on the particular page. So I'm going to put it on the user page. This class is only initialized when I hit, I try to open this user page here. So I'm gonna put it here. Probably I would be adding it in the oh yes. So API defines a method which is called add location, and it takes two arguments. The first argument is a folder. In this case, I'm adding the whole folder of ATK add-ons. The second argument specifies which type of resources are located in there, and which are the subfolders. So I want to say that the PHP classes, which is like a lib, is found inside MISC lib. Oops. If you're building a project which have multiple interfaces, a couple of front ends, a couple of back ends, API, and so on and so on, pretty often you will find the need to share your classes between different application parts. And again, this is how you can attach your shared classes and use them globally. Okay. Application. Okay, so I have to say that it worked properly. And the next problem is with the strength checker is when I'm adding inside the field template does not have the default place to put it. Therefore, I must specify the spot. And there are two spots, before field and after field. So I'll put the strength checker after field. And there it is. This is our strength checker. So as I type, it automatically updates and shows me if the password is good or not. Okay, it's not a complex add-on. It's less than 100 lines long. It bins a change of my field and sends an AJAX request asking to see if the password is secure or not. And it tries to rely on cracklib, which is not installed in my system, I think. But if it would be, then it would try to use a cracklib. On the other hand, you could extend this and create your own routine, how you would like to check if the password is secure or not. Okay, back to my user page. So I have the password checker. I have to say this has only been done while I'm typing the password, but not when I'm actually changing the password. So if I type 123, it will complain it's too short, but I still can change it. So because there's no linkage between the form, submission of the form, and the password checker, that could be done, but I think if any of you needs it, then you can do it yourself.
Romans?
Yes.
Is this also the reason that you don't put this in the model?
Sorry, model what?
Well, you can also check the strength of the password in the model, but
Oh yeah.
interfering with the form, right?
Yeah, of course. We can also check in the model as well. And probably what we could do is we could extend this thing and use that method from the model as well as a means to check the password. It could be done pretty simply. All we need to know that we can extend an existing class and redefine a couple of methods in there. Okay, so I'm gonna skip over all this and we'll go inside our next goal, and it is to implement password encryption. Okay, the easy way to implement encryption is by using our authentication class. This is a controller of Agile Toolkit, which handles authentication. Okay, and then this is basically a method, use password encryption, which instructs our authentication controller to use a certain encryption. Only thing I need to remember is that it have to be done before I set the model, because it's used when I call set model. I will start with a rather trivial encryption, which is called ROT13. It's basically the way of swapping characters. It's been around for a while. I think it's coming from Perl or something, or from C. I don't know, but it's a funny algorithm. It just looks like the password is different, but it's not different at all. And I'll try to change my password and just see if this worked for me in the database. And it is. So I typed test 123. It changed letters in test, and 123 stayed. So there we go, a very simple password encryption. Let's try something else. Let's try MD5. Okay, because I'm logged in, I can change the password easily. And now let's see. Now, no idea why it's like that. Let's try this. That's really weird. Okay, I'll have to check why the others didn't work. But so this last method I'm showing is called sh. This is the encryption, which uses a combination of a pretty strong hashing algorithm, and also it incorporates a salt. So the email is used as a salt. So if the same two users with different emails would have the same password, the encryption would look different. Okay, just to show you how exactly it's been implemented in our auth. So our authentication has this class in here, which is called encrypt password, and it's given a password and a salt, which in our case is an email, and it looks what kind of encryption must be used. There is a ROT13, there is our salt method, which uses this strong encryption function, and MD5, which for some reason didn't work.
Yeah, I think I know why it is not working.
Yeah, why?
Because in the first line of the function, the is callable, you see, and MD5 is a callable function of PHP5.
Ah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah,
you try to run
I remember
MD5
this.
with two parameters, password and salt.
Right.
And that is not a PHP function.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that now. It was a bug. It was fixed in ATK4, but the version I'm using, it doesn't have this fix yet.
Okay. So let's put it sideways.
Yeah, let me find it. But a good observation. Yeah, thanks for pointing this out. Yeah. So this is a recent version. So it has if it's not string, and if it's callable, then only then it would call the method. But in this case, there is no fix in there. But yeah, because you saw that, that means you can actually create your own function and pass it here, and it will be executed. Okay, should we try it? Just for laugh.
Yeah.
Let's try function
MD5
password and salt. Return password and salt. So we'll simply concatenate both together. Let's see what happens now. Changing our password. Refresh. Okay, and there's a password concatenated with salt. So pretty easy to extend. We could have our own function. I'll leave it back at SHA256. Just one more note before we continue, and it is how a third component to the salt is calculated. So if you look here, it has a password, a salt obviously, but then there is also authentication key, which comes from the configuration file. So let's say if I have my secure password environment somewhere and I type config, what was it? Auth key, and this will be called secret. Again, I save it, the user changed his password, and then suddenly someone steals our database. All the database is stolen, and the thing is that because they don't know the secret, they also for them would be pretty difficult to try and break the passwords because the secret was used for hashing. And if the key is not set, it simply uses the name of the application as it comes from the very top level index PHP page. And so it uses lost and found by default. Okay. Our next.
If the email of the user is changing, that will change the salt.
If you look at the existing projects, I mean online web applications, usually when you change your email, they ask to retype your password. So what they're doing is they, first of all, they verify your password against the existing hash, and then they will also re-encode your new password, the password again, and store a new password hash for you. So if you happen to change your email, you also usually are required to provide your password. Again, you don't necessarily need to use your email as a salt. Let me just check how this method is called. Yeah, so verify credential. So you could potentially extend this and in your authorization class and define a different way how you'd like to encrypt the passwords. So it's pretty flexible. Next, I would like to face another problem. And okay, so if you remember, I logged in with my username, which was demo@mail.com. Well, let me just start by double checking that my password is working fine. So I will log out, log in again, and I'm in. So now I have I was authenticated against the salt, so salt is working fine. Another note on the encryption. If I go back to the user form and when I type my password in here, this entire file and the user model does not have a single reference to encryption. So why the field is getting encrypted? I type it here, I call update on the form. So normally it would store a field unencrypted, but in this case it's being encrypted. So how that happens? And the solution is because this particular method is being taken from authorization class, it is modified in a slight way, and I'll show you how. When the set model is called, it applies encryption hook, calls this method, and this is the method which will encrypt your password just before save. So you see the model add hook before save. The following function is used, which will, if the password is dirty, it will not touch the password. If it will only encrypt it if it was changed, and it will encrypt. It will use the method of our auth class, sorry, to encrypt the password using salt in this case and store it into the database. So it kind of makes the whole experience easier. You don't need to worry about how you would encrypt your password. So it just happens. Okay, next I wanted to look at the problem where the user can possibly register and log in with an email which is case sensitive. So because now we're doing hashes and user can sometimes register on the system using an email such as Romans with capital letter, just com. But then later on he will try to log in with a lowercase letters, and of course it will not work out, and he will be asking why Why can't I log in? Probably the typical way and the most easiest way is to simply lowercase all the emails, and when the user is logging in, we are going to lowercase his email again. And of course on the registration form. So it will also be lowercase. But in order to avoid doing it in several places, I will simply go to the user model in here and lowercase the field just before the model is being saved. Just to remind you that when you're adding any hook, the first argument is always the object which owns the hook and model in our case. And that should be it. So we're normalizing the email field. Okay. Also, I like to restore this function so we see how the password is being generated. Imans is asking, is it needed to write add hook? Sometimes we can simply override before save method and use pardon before save. The methods before save and after save, or actually before insert, before update, and so on, were used in the previous version of Agile Toolkit, Agile Toolkit 4.1. And starting from Agile Toolkit 4.2, it's no longer used. So if any callbacks needs to be added to the model, you need to register it with a hook. But if there is already a method which being registered with a hook, and you simply want to add additional thing to it, you could extend your model, call parent, and like Imans is saying. But by default, is even if you call your method before save, it will not be called by default. You need to register it through a hook system. Okay, now let me (16). Okay, I need to log in first. Go to preference page, and then I will change this to this new format. And this is done so I could easier see what's inside my password fields. Test1.demo.mail.com. Okay. Next, I'll try to register a new account.
Before you can do that, Roman, there's another question from Cobra.
Okay.
Add hook in parents as well as in child, then it's called twice, one for each class. Why so?
Yeah, if you execute add hook several times, then it will be called twice. So you simply need to avoid taking the same method and then calling them again. So let's say we are in a user file and we have add hook here. If I extend this class, it will work fine. If I specify a method such as before save here, and then I extend this and I will call the same add hook again, really add hook doesn't compare your method against the hooks which have been previously registered. So if you register the same method several times, it will be called several times. Yeah, that's it. It shouldn't, otherwise it shouldn't be called several times. Okay, email romans.com, password test, and I'll try to register. Okay, next, checking my database. Okay, first name is Romans, last name, and email. You see the email was lowercase, but the password is not set. So let's see why that is not being done. This is our registration page. We have a checks for the password here, which is good. Okay, so the problem I see here is that the password is using password underscore one, and it added to the model manually, so it's not actually sets a proper password, and therefore after the registration in this particular case, user will not be able to log in. So what do we need to do? Somewhere here we need, okay, now this is a set password there. Okay, let's try to debug that and see. Debug. Why is it happening like this? I was pretty sure I deleted that. For name. User. I'll just command this for a while. I'll check in later. Expression.
There's a remark from both Karen and model.
Yeah, okay, I think. What is model in here? That was on the registration field. Okay, let's see what the model is. So the model is user model, write a new class. Oh, I see. Okay, so we create a form and we create model independently. We're not, but we will link them against. Okay, I see the problem. Again, probably a typical problem, and some of you would run into this problem sooner or later. But as a model can have multiple instances, so I could create a model object like this. It creates an instance of a class, saves into this variable. When I use set model, it is then creates another model and associates with a form. So if I want to access this new model, I would write model form model. But unfortunately, it's not the same model as this one. So if I want them to use the same model, I'll need to change and use the model here. Yeah, that should be correct. Come on. Register. Okay, insert into user. Full name. User is registered successfully. Let's see if he has password, and he does have password test, but it's not encrypted. Okay, you know why it's not encrypted? Because the model we have created manually here, it does not have this hook, which is added by the authentication method. So we need to apply this hook manually. And I believe we can do so by calling this out. What was it? Apply hook or something? Add encryption hook. Okay, I'm going to delete this user again. I'll try to register again. Yeah, there's our new password here, which is now properly being encrypted with the method we have defined. So now it works fine. The only possible problem I see here is the execution of hooks. So because this adds encryption hook which changes the password, but also inside the user there is a hook which modifies the email. So while this worked fine for us, and the first hook made the lowercase of our email here, and the second hook created the password, the question is what happens if for some reason the hooks are not executed in the proper order. And to explain how it does, the add hook variable carries an argument which is a priority, and we can use it, it's a third argument, we can use it to specify the priority in which to call the methods. Hooks are defined for all the objects, so it comes from abstract object. And okay, you get arguments, and okay, the last argument is a priority, which is 5 by default. Let's just try to, because it works properly for us, let's try to make it incorrectly by going to user, and when we add this hook, I'll try to play with priorities. Let's say give it priority number 0. Okay, the priority 0 takes precedence, and now I'll try 9. Still works fine. Before save. To be honest, I'm not sure. We'll need to double check, but good thing it works for me. So I'll just remove that. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that there is a priority, and you can change the order in which hooks are executed. Okay. Next, I just have a suspicion about. No. Okay, next thing I wanted to show you is that a model could actually have a custom check for user verification. And again, you could probably even discover that if you start looking at the authorization class, and you see if a model has method called verified credentials, then that method will be used instead of the original one. So I see, it could be a really interesting way how to add additional check in, okay, we do the encrypt password, but let's say in here I will define this method. And maybe there is an expiration field, so I would say if this, what field could it be? Yeah, we don't have any field, but let's assume we have account expiration, account, which will be a date. So we might check that if this is too old, then we're going to return false. But again, we also need to verify the password, which we'll need to implement manually. We can't, if we define this function, we cannot call the authorization class back because we're going to end up in a loop. So let's see if I can log in with this. And I can, because it says incorrect information. Now if it would be true, that means I can log in with any user with any password. So that is finally alternative way how you can verify the password. Pretty handy thing to have. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover on the authorization, use of password, registrations, and for password forms and so on. If you, Bob, do you have any questions?
Let me check. No question on this for me.
Imans, you guys have questions? Okay, I'll assume you don't have no questions, and I'll try to quickly go to the next theme, which is well, let me just check quickly. I wanted to talk about soft delete. Do you guys want to hear about soft delete? How we can do a soft delete? Okay.
So soft delete, if I'm right, is that you don't delete the record from the database?
Yeah, the idea is we do not physically delete the record, but we only change it. I will change my test user to 1. Or actually, no, there is an admin here, an email. I could change the password here to be this way. I can log in into my admin user. I can't. I mean, silly thing.
Okay, the question from Imans is also
Cascading delete.
Cascade of delete.
Yeah. The application I'm using here is called SQL Pro. I think it's cute, nice application, works specifically developed for Mac, but it seems to have some problems. Okay. And now I can log in into and go in my admin section. Okay, so let's say we have okay, user admin, item admin. Let's now work with the item. So I'm going to close anything which relates to the user and work on items. I have to say I looked into implementation of soft delete in other frameworks, and it's really so complicated for them, and it's much more easier in here. So first of all, we need to have a field. Well, I'm not gonna do it too complex for you at this point. I'll simply add deleted int, and it will be by default 0. So records we are adding are not deleted. It maybe is deleted. Next, I'm gonna add this field in here.
Well, why would you allow the is null?
You're right. Okay, I deleted, and type is boolean. Okay, and finally what I need to do this is deleted supposed to be 0. Okay, and now if I come on, oops, I think I ordered to the wrong table here. I need to do it in an item. I'm usually not too worried about having those nulls or not. That's why I don't pay much attention. Okay, so now if I manually go in database and change a field and set something to be deleted, such as girlfriend in here, she will disappear. She wouldn't be in my list anymore. But now, of course, that's easy. But what about this delete button, which deletes things? And for that, I'm going to redefine the delete function. By simply setting this to 1 and calling update. I can also return the, I think it returns this, so it doesn't really matter. Now let me try to add a new item and delete it. Test item, okay, and delete that. Okay, so what's the problem here? When we define a condition, the whole model, right, I know, the whole model is has a condition that this particular field needs to be 0. Now, if any change we do with the model, as a result, makes it that the record is no longer matching this condition, the save operation is being aborted. So normally we save the record. After that, we try to load record again. If that's not working for some reason, it will produce an error like this. Currently, it says record could not be loaded. In the newer version of Agile Toolkit, it will properly say that there was a problem with conditions during the save. So the error must be misleading, and might be misleading a little bit, but you can see the stock trace in here. So we try to delete record number 5. Okay, date, save, modify, load, and the load failed. By the way, let me just quickly see if delete method can take an argument. Yeah, it can actually take the argument. So I'll just copy the same implementation here. And if ID is specified, it will load a particular ID. I'm not sure why I wrote update. It usually would be safe. There are 2 other methods in table apart from save. One is called save and unload. which is very similar to save, but it will not try to perform this reloading operation. The other method is save as. It's a tricky method. When you call save as, you specify a new model. The record will be saved and it will be attempted to load as this new model. So for example, if you have maybe lost items and save items, and you'd like to save to change it from being lost item into into found item, you would call lost item save as found item. And of course, you need to perform the modifications of the field first. And this last one is a field, really curious one called save later. Now this save later, it will not save something right away, but it will save this model when it's being destructed. So when all the application finishes working, if no one saved the model, then it will be saved automatically. Pretty good in some cases, also used internally, and maybe in your application you'll find a use for that. In our case, we're simply gonna call save and unload, because we don't need the model wouldn't be there after the deletion. And let me try saving it again. Okay, it's now being deleted from here. Checking the database, it is still in here. I think save as takes either a model or an object. Save as, so if it's a string, it will create it. So it could be either. Okay, the next thing here, we were talking about how many items. Let's say we'll look at the user table here, and I would like to have a field which shows a number of items each user have lost. And I want that to be a calculated field. So I'm going back to model user, adding a new expression, which would be called item CNT. Okay, in order for this expression to work, we need to produce a query here and return it to from this function. We have been through this already. If you would like to learn more about the expressions, I think it was a screencast tutorial number 3 or 2. I don't really remember, but you can look on Google, YouTube. I will simply do MSQL. Okay, this is how we can see a number of items. Okay, so Romans now have lost 1 item and job logs have lost 2 items. Now, the important point I wanted to make here is this user number 1 who have lost a test item, but this test item was deleted. It's no longer chosen here. Even if I go and Romans lost a girlfriend, I'm going to delete this item. And I'm going back to refreshing this screen here. You see it no longer shows 1, but it shows 0. We only implemented soft delete in our user model, yet it also have impacted this expression here. I find this pretty awesome. Let me show you how this expression is built exactly. Okay, see if I can make it larger. Okay, so what happens here? Select count from item where item is deleted equals, and it will have 0 in there. The reason why it does that is because it looks inside a model and it calls the SQL method on that model, which properly applies a condition. So it would be additional conditions, they would also be applied. And this is really good for consistency, such as you change a certain model to using soft delete, and you don't need to worry about that inside your project. It's been properly treated all across the project. Very error prone implementation. Also, if I have a method such as function, okay, let me see what I can do. But if I want to create some action which affects all the items, and what could it be? Let's say I'm just making this stuff up here, but all found. So if I have a method in here, and what it's going to do, simply set is found on all the items to 1, and then call update. Again, when we write this, we're not thinking about whether or not soft delete is there, but it will be automatically applied. I suppose I could make an example out of this, but it's not really applicable in this situation. All I wanted to know that when you call a DSQL and build any query based on the model, it automatically will have those conditions in place. And this is a really strong point why you should use the DSQL based on the models, because you're not gonna run into trouble later on. Any questions about soft deletes and also expressions queries like I showed here before? If no, I will go to a next topic, which is a recursive delete.
See any questions? So.
Sorry?
No, I was just mentioning that I don't see any questions in the chat about this topic.
Okay, good. The next thing that I'd like to do, I'd like to create okay, we have a user, let's say that Roman M, this is our new user. I'm going to create a new item by this user. Taste item lost, okay, and the user is Roman's M. Okay, back here, we have an item count of 1. And what I want to do now, if I try to delete this record, it will not allow me to delete because the user have active items. And then later on, I'll modify that condition. So to implement this, I would go into the user model, and it is a before delete hook I'm going to be adding. Typically, you would call the hook, the procedure in the same way, but it's not really a requirement. We could make it, call it a different name, just for change. I want to do it. Check dependencies. And this method will see if there are any items by this particular user. I must check if okay. So before deleted is called on the method after the model has loaded the appropriate record. So we can in fact rely on. Okay, let me start by calculating how many records this user has. Oh, first of all, let's say throw this exception, unable to delete. So right now I won't be able to delete any user. Let me see if that's the case. Oops. Okay, I get base exception, unable to delete. It's not the nicest exception to show to the user. So as a second argument here, I can specify the class of exception. I think there was a validity check. Okay. Nope, still not showing up nicely. There was basically a mechanism how we can handle those exceptions which appear everywhere and do something about them. And I can show you a good way to have it. Try. Yeah, we could in fact have a session on exceptions. Okay, let's simply see if this works. So what I'm doing here is if we encounter this particular exception, it will display an alert with the exception name. Did I type it properly? Was it? Okay, it might have been inside the init as well. Okay. Still no. Okay, we're gonna resort to one other way. If this interests you, you could ask this question in a Google group, and I'll try to research how exactly, why exactly this wasn't working, and I'll try to post either a fix or a solution to this. Okay, now it works. So the method code exception, so if okay, let me explain what happens here. When API happens to call any exception, it calls a method which is named caught exception. It happens for init method or for rendering. So anywhere exception is happening, it executes this method. Now we can redefine that, and we can check for particular types of error message like this, and if they happen, we can show it in a nicer way to the user, or decide what we want to show. And again, if any other message error message is going to happen, it will simply go and fall back to the previous way it was displayed. There is also a hook inside the application, and we probably can also have a session on hooks, which is used by a class called Logger. And Logger is a controller of Agile Toolkit, which extends and implements logging of exceptions, and also tries to present them in a different way. Okay, so that's a topic for some other session, but for now I just wanted to show this error message, saying to show you it actually works. Let me try this, delete this user, which has 0, and also unable to delete because we haven't implemented the functionality of checking. How do we check amount of related items? So now we have has many items. We can do this, ref item. Now, because we're not looking to create an expression here, but we actually would like to get the value, we're using ref count get 1. So if this is let's suppose larger than 0, then we are going to generate an error. Okay, now let's try to delete this one. Oops. Closing. Thank you. Okay, trying again to delete this one. Unable to delete. Can I delete this one? And it is successful. Okay, so what should we do here? There is one other method in table which is called delete all, and when we're implementing the soft delete, it's probably a nice thing to do that I also redefine this method and just change the way how it's working. So I'll probably copy this, delete all inside our item table. Oops, sorry, and instead of deleting them, I would set is deleted. And call update. One other thing probably need to do is no, that's all. Thank you. Lost bracket in there. Okay, so delete all method by default deletes all the records of a model. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the condition for having is deleted equal to 0 would already been applied by this, so we're only deleting a record which are not deleted yet. And also I'm setting is deleted here. What else I can do? I could I could set another field such as time of deletion, maybe if I want. Yeah. If I want to preserve the time when the record was marked as deleted, I could also include it in here, but I can leave it to you. Now that I have in my user, I already have this counting thing. I just showed it for you as an example. How about we check if there are any items which are not being marked as found, then we are not going to let user be deleted. But if all his items have been found, then we're going to delete the items. The test item, it's not found yet. Okay, if item, I have two choices here. I could do add condition is found false and then perform the count. I'm making way too many mistakes today. Right, okay. Unable to delete because user Romance has an item which has not been found yet. But if this check passes, I'd like to have a different condition, is found true, although it probably wouldn't matter here, and I'm calling delete all. So I'm deleting all related items related to this particular user which is being deleted. Okay, I hope it's simple, everyone understands this. And let's see, now still I won't be able to delete this user. I'm going here and I'm going to set the user item as found. Save. Coming back here, now I can try to delete that, and it's successful. If I refresh and look at the items, the item is gone. So we have implemented many interesting things. Anyone has a question about deleting like that? Oh, and of course, inside the item, inside delete all, we can do recursive delete if there are other records which we need to delete. Perfectly possible, you know, you could do the cascading deletes like that. No problem at all. I think we have talked about all the topics I had for today.
There's a question from Imans to
before delete hook. Okay, thanks, Bob.
Using your delete hook.
You could do that as well, but in our situation, it will probably work. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Before delete, we could do it. The reason why I'm talking about delete all is because we are marking them as deleted. Yeah, let me actually check that. So the item is not appearing here, but it should still be in a database. Yes, it's in there. So the test item is still there. It was simply marked as deleted. Before delete hook does not work in case of delete all. There is a different hook which is called before delete all. So you probably need to do that one. Also, we probably need to implement it if in here. So create before delete all hook. The only difference is that we're deleting one item in here. With the before delete all, it's slightly different logic because we're deleting all the items, and probably never gonna happen with users, so I'm not worried about that. The difference
is before delete also works in case of delete all.
It will be super to package all of this self-delete functionality in one solid add-on. I think there is a field which is called deleted. So if you, I'm not 100% sure it works. It's an implementation of soft delete. So all you need to do is add this field deleted to your model. As you can see, it will be false by default. It has type of Boolean. It will also add the condition on the owner. What it's not going to do is it will not intercept the deletion to the model, and it will not do the update instead of delete in the case of delete all. So there is still probably a little bit more work to do here. The problem is if we intercept, let's say before delete, this hook over here, there is no way we can bypass this next line. So there needs to be probably a check which would say if I don't know, maybe not something, then we delete, but there should be some way to return the results from hook, which will skip the original deletion procedure, and then we can implement the soft delete functionality. At the moment, this is simply not working like that, but maybe we could have it in some near future. You certainly are welcome to implement it yourself and send me a pull request in GitHub, provided that you actually tested this functionality, and I'm gladly merge it into the main version. Okay. There is a way how you can return results from a hook. So because when we're calling a hook like this, again, this is outside of this tutorial, but maybe I mentioned, since we're looking in the hooks, we already established that the hooks can have priority. One hook could have multiple methods it needs to call. Therefore, this method will return array containing list of results received from all the hook functions. So if the first method returns 1, 2, 3, the second hook returns false, then the resulting array would contain 1, 2, 3, false, or something like that. In this situation, it's pretty difficult to see, like if I write if like that and check in condition, then if the execution reaches this point, that means there was at least one hook. Doesn't matter what was the reply, but the array is not empty. It was empty, and therefore it got here. But there's one other way. There is a method in abstract object which is called break hook, and if you call that and you pass a value in here, then the hook method will extend return this value. Additionally, no other hooks will be executed. So it implements this by throwing an exception, which will be intercepted internally, and the result will be returned. So this might be a good way to implement this, but I'm just a little bit worried that additional hooks would not be executed in the sequence. So if no major questions from our viewers, I'd like to invite you to our next screencast, which is going to happen in 1 week's time, next Wednesday at exactly the same time, and you will have an invitation on Google+. Thank you for joining, and my name was Romans. You can see all the episodes of this tutorial and other hangouts on agiletoolkit.org/tutorial.